That's a fact. God has given us truth. You know, resurrection power, I was thinking about what that meant to me. Resurrection power. We're getting ready to celebrate Easter, celebrate that He rose again from the grave and stuff. What does that mean for you and me? Well, it means everything. It means everything. It means that Christ got victory over death, hell, and the grave. Is that once this life is over, it's not all there is. And Jesus done something that we could never do. Today we talked about how Jesus is better than your doubt in God's love for you. And the reason I talk about this is because oftentimes we think that when we approach God after we've done something wrong, somehow, some way, we think He doesn't love us anymore. And I couldn't help but to think how this kind of stinking thinking is with us from childhood all the way up. And we start to see in our children even, when they know that they've done something wrong, how they come to us and they've been caught in something and they approach the parents with feelings like they're going to hate me. They won't love me anymore. But the truth is, when my boys have done something wrong and they've been caught up and they come to me, it's not at all that I've stopped loving them. It's that I need to stop a negative behavior or something, a behavior that's happening that's unacceptable. We need to prevent that from happening. But oftentimes, they don't come to us, and you got to play a little investigator to find out what happened, because they're afraid that you might not love them anymore, or you might hate them, or that you might withdraw your love from them and play favorites. And you know, I got to thinking, this is exactly how we approach God. This is how we come to God whenever we do something wrong. We think that God doesn't love us anymore. But true love does correct. When we do something wrong, God says, I correct you because I love you. I tell you not to go down this path because I love you. I tell you not to commit this sin is because I love you. I want to protect you from those things. So we as parents, if you have kids, this is why we correct them. It's because we love them. Not because we don't, but because we do. And it's amazing to me, we as parents have no problem disciplining our children, really. But we have a problem when God disciplines us. Because I think when it comes to our discipline, the right kind of discipline is one that expresses that you love them, and yet it still has accountability. That even though you will forgive them, even though they may be grounded or they may have to have some activities taken away from them or whatever, that there's still accountability there, and you're going to have to endure the accountability. We as a human race do not like accountability. We do not like to be punished for what we've done wrong. Trust me, I'm in a line of work that I get lied to all the time. And it's my personal experience that we live in a society where I teach my boys to tell the truth. When they've done something wrong, tell Dad what happened. Tell Mom and Dad what happened. And then they go through with some slight variations. And then today, do you have anything illegal in your vehicle? Oh, no. And then our other canine says otherwise. And then our search reveals otherwise. And then you find out I've been lied to multiple times. We don't like to be punished for things that we've done wrong, even though we know they're wrong. When we do something wrong, oftentimes we think God withholds His love from us. But the last time I checked, God is better than any of your failures. God is better than anything you can do outside of His will. Because He died for a sinner like you while you was yet a sinner. And I need you to grab a hold of that. If you learn anything today, is that even though you do wrong, God still loves you. And He's wanting you to return to Him. And He's wanting you to stop this behavior because it's bad for you. It'll take you down the wrong road. And He's telling you this and correcting you this, and certain things are happening to you because you need to be held accountable. It's for example, if I decide that I'm going to drink a bunch today, and I get behind the wheel, drink alcohol, and get behind the wheel, and I drive down the road, and I get in a wreck, and I kill the person in the other car. And I didn't mean to, but it happened. I'm still, I can go to God, ask for forgiveness for that, repent of it, and be true in my heart. But I still have to be accountable to that loss of life. God still will forgive me, but His forgiveness does not negate accountability. All the time, you'll see me give warnings more than tickets at all. I give warnings to people and stuff unless I've seen you 2 or 3 times. Then obviously something's not been learned. But if I catch you speeding and stuff, I'll give you a warning. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just, it happens to all of us. We all lose attention on the speedometer. We let it get away from us from time to time. I apply discretion in that way. But oftentimes when I pull people over and they're speeding and stuff, what option do you think comes out of the mouth? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry. What are they doing? There's like, they recognize when they've done something wrong, and they realize it got away from them, and they're being apologetic. That's oftentimes how we do, okay? If they're issued a ticket and stuff, it still says, I can still accept that apology. You understand what I'm saying? But they still have to be accountable for it. Oftentimes I think people say if they say they're sorry, then they shouldn't be accountable. Well, I wish that worked all the time, but it's not our case. It's not the real world. You can't just say you're sorry and not be held accountable, especially if it's repeat offending. You understand what I'm saying? You can't stand before a judge in a case of a murder and say, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. And even though it's two extremes, but oftentimes God's still going to hold you accountable because He loves you. And oftentimes things are done, tickets are issued to hold you accountable so you don't lose sight of how important the control of speed is. And so because these winding roads in West Virginia and the navigation you have to use to avoid potholes on Hagans Road, if you go over the speed limit, that can mean some bad things. Busted tire, over the hill you go. So it's just better that we follow the things that are in place. But people have some stinking thinking when it comes to love. They think that true love allows continuous bad behavior to occur. I've seen this in families that they call it love, but what they do is they don't hold accountable people's actions, and those actions continue. For example, parents who have kids or have older kids that are drug addicts. A lot of times this is what I call tough love. They will bail them out continuously. And a lot of times when I come across them, it's already been their 3rd or 4th or 5th time around the system. And the first, second, and third times, they were able to not go straight to jail. They were able to circumvent and do something different and try to wake them up, right? So then by the time that they're finally being held accountable, it's done their 8th or 9th or 10th encounter with the law. And before you know it, by that time, over a period of years, it's already a full-blown addiction. It's already, well, I just do this my family will get me out. You know it, and I know it. It happens. all the time. And what do we call those? Enablers. But I understand family expresses love. I'm going somewhere with this, trust me. Follow me. But that's not true love. That's not God's love. That's not a Christian's love. A true love will hold the person accountable for their actions and forgive them at the same time. But the receiver end of that says, if you really love me, you won't put me in jail. Or if you really love me, you won't give me a ticket. Or if you really love me, you wouldn't be yelling at me. If you really love me, you wouldn't be grounding me. If you wouldn't really love me, you wouldn't be taking my iPod away. That's not true. That's stinking thinking. Matter of fact, the Bible says, spare the rod, hate the child. And the Bible says, those who God loves, He also chastises. He disciplines. The Word of God gives us direction on how to love and hold accountable. The Bible also says that when God does this with us, it's His expression that He does love us. Oftentimes when we approach God, we approach Him with the idea that unless everything's forgiven, and I've heard it from people incarcerated, they want to get Jesus all of a sudden. And when they do, they expect all of it to go away, even accountability. One time I was at a prison in Oklahoma. I had to testify in a murder trial where a guy I encountered down here. And so when I took a tour of the prison up there, he said, he took me around the corner. He said, and there was 2 vending machines there. He said, yeah, Jesus is right behind the pop machine. I said, what? He said, Jesus is behind the pop machine. And this was a correctional officer telling me this. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, right around the corner, we ain't got there yet, but right around the corner is the arraignment room where we take everybody to get arraigned. And this is where they get their initial appearance before the magistrate and stuff. And he said, every time we'll take, he said, 9 out of 10 of them do it. They said, hold up for a minute. And they'll go right here in this corner by the pop machine, and they'll pray to Jesus to get them out of what they're getting ready to be arraigned for. So Jesus is behind the pop machine. Okay. We got some stinking thinking out there. Just because Jesus forgives you of your wrongdoing don't mean the accountability is negated and out the window. It don't happen that way. But true love corrects bad, negative behavior to prevent the reoccurrence of it. In Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, now I'll remind you that chapters 1 through 11 follow chapter 12. It tells the whole story, but Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2 says that we are a living sacrifice, that we are having a renewed mind, that we will not follow the patterns of the world. So that being said, God's going to teach you something new. He's going to redo your thinking, how you approach and how you respond. Why people think that they can ask for forgiveness and yet walk in the same patterns of the world is beyond me. God's going to correct that. And oftentimes when He does, we approach God as if He doesn't love us anymore. I couldn't help but give you an example out of Genesis chapter 22 where it talks about Abraham and Isaac. And how there's parallels with that story in Genesis with the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 through 14. It says this. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, go ahead and put the scripture up there. He said to him, Abraham, here am I, he said. Then God said, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on the mountain I will show you. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. Now some of us would have taken weeks. Is this going on? That's what we would have done. God plainly speaks to us, and a lot of us said, I got to think about it. And we go off taking months to think about it. We've done heard God's voice clearly. We know what he expects from us. Well, this in case Abraham got up and loaded his donkey the next morning. He took him, with him, 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for a place God had told him about. And on the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then we will come back to you." Verse 6. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac. And he himself carried the fire in the night. And as the 2 of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, "Father." "Yes, my son." Abraham replied, "The fire and wood are here," Isaac said, "but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" And Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." And the 2 of them went on together, and when they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. And he bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar, on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called upon him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram, sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, "The Lord will provide." And to this day it is said, "On the mount of the Lord it will be provided." Can you imagine the conversation between Abraham and Sarah that night before going on this journey? You're a mom, you're a dad, and you're having this conversation. "Hey, this is what the Lord told me to do." Sarah says to Abraham, "Are you crazy? Are you kidding me? God provided this son to us, and now you're telling me God's willing to take him?" And Isaac's not a newborn. Obviously, he's old enough to walk and carry wood. So there's been some bonding years there. Sarah was beyond her years and in childbearing, and God provided a miracle baby to her. And Abraham, for that matter. And now Abraham comes in and says, "Honey, I got something to tell you. You're not going to like it, but it's the Lord's will." And Sarah, as any common person, would struggle with the fact, did he really hear from God? I mean, Abraham's not a spring chicken. Did he really hear from God? Is he hearing voices? Sarah to Abraham, "Abraham, are you sure?" Maybe that conversation happened. Maybe it didn't. I can't help but to think our common minds would go off that way. After all, we are talking about the sacrificing son here. That's pretty serious. Sarah, I bet, even wrestled with the fact of whether she would serve God. Maybe she gave God ultimatums and said, "God, you can't take my son. If you take him, I'm not going to serve you." Maybe she wrestled with feelings like that. Maybe Abraham wrestled with the feelings of, "God, this is hard. I don't know if I can do this. I mean, you're going to have to help me talk to her. She's going to have a hard time with this." And then Isaac, he wasn't stupid. He saw that there was wood. He saw that there was fire. He saw that there was a knife. But there wasn't no sacrificial lamb. And he wrestled with this on the journey there. You heard what it said. He said, "Dad, everything else but the lamb is here. What's going on?" He's seen it 100 times, 1,000 times by his dad. His dad, this ain't the only time Abraham sacrificed an animal in honor of God. He's done seeing his dad build an altar and provide the wood and line it up, but there's always been a ram. Now there's not. Dad, what's going on? And his dad made a statement that I think relates to all us fathers, and that is Abraham said, God will provide. I believe that this was Abraham's prayer ever since God gave him the mission. Come on now. God gives you a mission to do something sacrificial. Something that's going to cause you something you value so much that you don't want to let it go. And God tells you to sacrifice it to Him. Whatever it is. Give that car to that couple. They need it. What? Where's my transportation? Give that car to that couple. They need it. Matter of fact, sell your big home. Give half of it to this purpose over here and get you a smaller home. It's happening. Matter of fact, God's giving people missions. Hey, sell your home, sell your property, and move over here. I need you over here. Geographically, pick up and move. Missionaries do this all the time. So, God gives you something sacrificial, and you start wrestling with it in your mind and in your heart, and you start to go to God and say, God, is this really you? Is it, we start all these things. And it was God to begin with, and we're just not wanting to listen because it's sacrificial. It means a lot. And I don't know about you, but the last time I checked, every son and daughter means a lot to their father and mother. Normally. And Isaac to Abraham and Sarah, even that much more. It was a miracle child. And now God's asking them to give sacrificially. I wrestle with the fact that God, what really do I do? Sacrificially for you? And I evaluated, I said, I preach 3 times a week. I read your word every day. I come to the church and I lift up my hands and I sing about 4 songs. I try not to lose my temper during the week. I try to live righteously. I try that these words come out right and give your name glory and honor. At the end of the day, I have to ask myself, what do I really sacrifice compared to the stories I see? And so I'm really begging you to understand the fact that, look, what has God asked you to sacrifice? If He's trying to correct your mouth, He's asking you, you're sacrificing your lips to Him, your words. What kind of sacrifice is that? We want to hoo and haw about that. We want to say how big of a problem that is. Well, God's not asking you to give up your one and only Son. He's asking you to correct your language. And we want to act like that's a big deal. Or that we can't do it. Or that there's something preventing us. And it's such a big sacrifice. No, it ain't. Quit fooling yourself. That ain't sacrifice. It might take some work, but it ain't sacrifice. Getting up and coming to church, we won't call that sacrifice. That ain't sacrifice. Let me tell you what sacrifice is. You offering up your one and only child. God did that. That's sacrifice. God's not asking for your whole bank account. He's asking for 10% of it. And we want to call that sacrifice. That's not sacrifice. It's sacrifice when He wants it all. We want to call it sacrifice when we go to church more than once a week. That's not sacrifice. I say, God, what kind of people are we becoming in this fast-paced society? Baby, powdered, guided, lazy, spiritually. As it neared time and Abraham was ready to make the altar ready and laid Isaac upon it, God said, stop, and provided a lamb. And until this day it's called God will provide. The father's prayers, Abraham struggled with the fact that that's the only way he could reason with it, with such a request. Surely God don't need me to offer my son, but this is exactly what he said. I'm going to follow the plan that God will provide. I know God will provide. God asked me to give this couple the car because they're just starting out and they need transportation. They need to go to work, and I've got two, and God told me to give them one. I know God will provide. I'm not going to go, but here I'm going to follow it anyway. A little similar. But to me, this whole story that we read is symbolic of what Jesus done, of what God was going to do, and had done over 2,000 years ago. And from Genesis 22, I got 3 short points I want to convey to you this morning. If you would write those down, the first point is, God desires sacrifice on your part. God desires sacrifice on your part. If you evaluate yourself, you have to ask yourself the question, what really have I sacrificed for God? Was it a big deal to me? God stops Abraham from sacrificing Isaac, saying, now I know you fear God because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. Genesis 22:12. I think God treats our willingness to sacrifice the one and only in our life as one of the greatest signs of devotion to life. I mean, we all have one and onlys in our life. God expected Abraham to be sacrificial, and he was. Why? Because Abraham knew God provided Isaac, and Abraham knew God would provide another, and another, and another, and another. Because God also promised him he will make his descendants as numerable as the sand in the sea. That Abraham looked to God as his provider. When you look to God like Abraham looked to God, as God as being your provider, that there ain't really nothing that you got your hands so involved in that it becomes before God. That God is everything to you. And giving him glory and obeying his will means everything to you. So if anything this message does, I ask you to evaluate yourself. And that thing that's most important to you, I ask you to spiritually give it to God. Though God is not requiring you to be sacrificed to him, I'm asking you to spiritually give it to God. Know that God provided it to you. All 4 of my kids, God provided me. God provided me with a loving wife. God provided me with a roof over my head. God provided me with the ability to work and where to work and how to work. God provided me with a family. God provided me with a church. God provided me with certain duties and a mission. God provided me all these things. The moment I think that anything is of myself, I've committed an error. I'm telling you to go home and look at your homes, look at your possessions, look at your purses, your bank accounts, and say, you know, God gave it all to me to steward. And if he asks anything from me, I pray that I can hear his voice, recognize his voice, and do his will. When you sacrifice things that are precious to you for the sake of God, then you know God has your heart. Has God really asked you to sacrifice anything to him? And if he hasn't, I'd be in prayer asking why, because normally he does. And I actually try not to think overthink this. Some people say, what do you mean? We need to just follow God blindly, and if he tells us to jump off the bridge, should we jump off the bridge? No. I think if we examine ourselves right now, of what things, if taken from us, would cause us to revolt against God. Those are the things God would ask you to give to Him. We look at God, anything that cause you to point at God, why'd you do this? And because you're doing this, I'm not following you anymore. If we do that, then that thing is more important than God. Hey guys, it's tough. I'm standing up here telling you it's tough to do something like that. It's tough to account for everything in your life and say, this is really important. This is like enormously important to me. And stuff like that. It's hard to put God in front of that and say that God is number one. But nonetheless, God is wanting that place. What if your house burns down? God, why did you let this happen to me? I ain't following you. I've dedicated my life. I've been to church more often. I've been giving better. I'm not doing it anymore. If your house burns down. What if your accounts have been hacked and wiped out? God, I just started giving to you faithfully 6 months ago, and now you've allowed my accounts to be taken away. And now I ain't got nothing. What am I going to do for groceries tomorrow? My kids got a field trip in a week. What am I going to do about that? If your most precious thing causes you to revolt against God, if you lost it, I would suggest that you give it to God right now. So you don't. What if your spouse cheats on you? What if you get the news someone has died in a car accident who was close to you? I'd give Lila to God all day long. God forbid that day ever come that she would be unfaithful. I couldn't stand up here and tell you what I would do. I tell you as a nice little preacher I am what I like to do. Would that be not real and honest to you in the fact that I am human too, with human emotions? That something like that wouldn't bring me to my knees. But at the end of the day, I have to give Lila to God. Say, God, she's yours. Whether she's with me or she's without me, she's yours. And she's not going to come in between my relationship with you. That she can tell me to curse God and die, and I'm not going to do it. Why do you say that, Isaac? Do you not care about it? Yes, I care about it. But God's Word says, if mother, brother, sister, child comes before me, you're not worthy to be my disciple. Why did He say that? Because He's mean? No. He said that because it will happen. The devil will try to use people to draw you away from God. And it's going to be people close to you. And if he can't get you that way, then the devil's going to cause bad things to happen to your possessions. And he's going to hope that somehow you put so much trust and faith in those things that it'll drag you away from God. After all, God should have protected those things. Listen, let's rewind to Genesis and say, what did the devil say to Adam and Eve? You will not surely die. God just don't want your eyes to be open. That you will become like Him, knowing and having knowledge of good and evil. What's the devil do once you lose something precious? God should have protected that. Now that He did, what are you being so faithful? That's exactly the devil's job. Because he's a liar. He's a father of it. And he's like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. It's a tough prayer, guys, but everything you own, you need to pray over and give it to God. Point number 2, God's promises is our gains. God's promises is our gains. Both Isaac and Jesus are promised children. Miraculously given. Sarah was well over age of childbearing. She was miraculously given. Mary had not yet slept with a man. She was a virgin, impregnated by the Holy Spirit, miraculously given. Both miraculously given. Both were to be sacrificed by their father. Both were to be sacrificial lambs to God. Both carried the very wood up the hill. Isaac with the wood on his back and Jesus with the cross on his. Carried up the hill to be sacrificed. Both submitted to their father's will to be sacrificed without resistance. Both were sacrificed on the hills of Moriah. They took Jesus therefore, and he went out bearing his own cross to the place called the place of the skull, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha. Golgotha was a hill in Moriah. And we know this because of the hill Golgotha and the temple in Jerusalem were 300 meters apart, with the latter being built upon the hill of Moriah called Mount Moriah, and the former also being a hill in Moriah, part of the same range of hills. No other historic event shares this similarity. It's amazing how Isaac was near sacrifice on the hill of Moriah, and then only later into the New Testament where Christ would be sacrificed on the same range of hills called Mount Moriah. Both the story of Jesus and Isaac, the account ends with the message that God will provide. God provided the lamb that was stuck in the bush, in the thicket, and God provided Jesus Christ as a sacrificial lamb for your and my sins. That you do not have to go to the cross. That you do not have to go to hell and pay for your sins. That God provided that for you. In closing is our last point, and that is God's love has no limits. I used to get really frustrated with families over drug addicts. At first I thought it was a blind love, and it just wasn't. They showed up at the court hearings, they showed up at this and that, and there's a part of me that just wanted to throw in the towel and say, why do you still care? This person don't care. This person's going to be a repeat offender, blah, 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 blah. I started wrestling with those feelings, and then God convicted me and I had to repent. He said, hey, hold on for a minute. I love you, and I'm there for you every time you fail me. And God showed me that His love has no limits. And a family's love that sees a drug addict all the way through, not an enabling family, not a family that doesn't have any accountability, but a family that still is there and will love that individual through this process, is a love that has no limits. What else are they going to have? I give up on Job, Gabriel, Noah, or Isaiah in their time of need. If I give up, totally cut them off, that makes me worse than an hypocrite. That makes me worse than anything. That's what the Bible says. If I don't take care of my family, I'm worse than an hypocrite. The point of the matter is your love is tough. It has to be tough sometimes. And that tough love comes through accountability. That tough love says, you know what, you're going to spend a month in jail, and then I'll think about getting you out. You need to think about it a little bit. But I'll be here for you. I'll call you every day. You can call me. Here's my number. All that. Well, it's very comparable to God's love for you. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down his life for one's friends. John 15:13. And again, later on, Paul talks about, hey, it's hard to die for anybody, let alone someone you really care about. Take a bullet for that person. Push them out of the way of the road so the vehicle hits you and not them. It's hard to die for a very good person, let alone a stranger. And guess what Jesus did for you? He died for you. When we have any doubt of whether God really loves us or not, we can always look to the cross and say, yes, He does. Always. temptation is that over time, we forget that love. Guys, it's been over 2,000 years ago since Jesus done it on the cross. I don't know about you, but sometimes time has a way of fading things out. And we forget. 9/11. Or pick any type of historical mass event. We have a tendency to lose sight, become complacent, risk not having the passion that we ought to have because of time. I thank God for Easter every year because it reminds Isaac of what Christ did on the cross and then how He rose again on the third day victorious. Victorious over what? Death, hell, and the grave. We don't have to go there. He secured that for us if we trust in His name. Your action steps today would include to evaluate yourself. Ask yourself and ask God, where in my life, God, that I put anything in front of you. Let Him reveal that to you. Matter of fact, let's pray that right now. Dear precious Heavenly Father, Lord God, as we close out today, I pray that you reveal to us through your Holy Spirit, Lord God, each and every one of those things that come in front of you. Lord God, and spiritually we can give those things back to you that we once held dear. And Lord God, we want you to have those things while we steward those things here on this earth. Lord God, we love those things, we cherish those things, but Lord God, none of those things will come in front of you. You're number one in our lives. You're first in our lives. In every way, every decision. Lord God, reveal those things to us as we stand and sing.